Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we're going to have Pastor Steve Cruz give the invocation.
Let us pray. Kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given us. We ask you now to be with us as our elected officials come together to conduct business for our city. We ask you to give them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that'll be above their own. We pray for our first responders in our city, that you watch over all of our firemen and our policemen and our emergency people as they go out. We pray that you'll keep them safe, also all the employees of our city. But we just ask your blessings upon our city, Hamlet, North Carolina. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, we will now give the oath of office to Tony Cluis.
You could use the Bible on the podium if you'd like, or just.
I, Tony Cluis,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of North Carolina
and the Constitution of the State of North Carolina
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
as a council member.
So help me God.
Pro Tem didn't want to sit there, so you can sit there.
Oh, okay.
Breaking tradition.
All right, adoption of agenda. Do I have a motion for that? A second?
A second.
All in favor? Okay. Comments from attendees. Do what? Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of consent agenda. All in favor? Okay. Now comments from attendees.
Good evening, Mayor, councilpersons.
Good evening.
Denise Cozart from Dock Hills Family Care Home. Just wanted to give you an update on some of the projects that we've been working on. We do want to say thank you, first of all. We had our community cookout on October 12th, and it was a great success. We appreciate all of you that came out and all of our people that were running for elected offices coming out to speak. But I really want to thank our first responders. We had police, fire, and EMS out there to network and communicate with the community, which is really what we wanted, is to have that community engagement and to kind of bridge those gaps of communication, trust, and so forth. So we really appreciate their efforts that came out and really supported us, so we really appreciate that. Another thing I wanted to touch on is the last meeting I spoke about speaking with Mr. Robert Brown in regards to trying to get our Spring Street project going. We did have a meeting with him and Ms. McKenzie. So it's still a working process, but we are moving in a good direction. So we want to give kudos to being able to move forward with that. Then the other thing, even though we had another community outing, for those of you who don't know about the accident, it happened on Spring Street right next to Dock Hills Family Care Home. I always say it's not a matter of when or if, it's when it happens, and it's happening. We've had 3 major accidents on that road in less than 3 months. 2 involved cars. This one on Saturday involved a car, drunk driver, coming up the street, taking out the one-way sign and the street sign, going between the poles and hydroplaning into 308 Spring Street, into her front door. So it was, fortunately, there's no fatalities there. We're grateful for that, but we've got to do something about the speed. I was given, or I should say I was given, the street was given a speed sign, and we appreciate that. We have seen a decrease in the the speed, but I'm asking that we drop the speed limit from being 35 to at least 25 on that road, on Spring Street. So I am putting a plea for that to see what we need to do. We will be getting with the police department, the chief, to see if we could have a car maybe sit behind the one-way like it used to, a couple of hours a day when it's not being occupied, to further help slow down the traffic. The 18-wheelers have all but stopped coming down that road. We get one every now and again, but for the most part, their efforts in helping us kind of control that has been definitely beneficial. So that's just a brief recap on what we have asked for, what we've gotten, and where we need to go and going forward. So I appreciate the meeting with Mr. Robert to see what we're going to do about cleaning up Spring Street, but we still need to slow the speed down on that, as evidenced by the accident on Saturday. Any questions for me? Fantastic. I appreciate everybody's time. And again, thanks a bunch to the first responders that came out to support us during our cookout. We really do appreciate that.
Thank you, Denise.
Glad it was a success.
All right, item number 7. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make it quick. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, so everyone knows I'm Esco. I'm the guy with the orange door on 74. So I want to get you an update on the 74 West Corridor cleanup, okay? So as of right now, we look like we're still on for April the 5th, using some of the Councilman Oscar as his recommendations. Hey, we have the resources. Following up with Councilwoman Abby, we also need the volunteers, so the citizens need to come together. So I've rounded up the volunteers. We have the volunteers for it. City management is on board. Our city code enforcement is on board with it. Our facilities director, Robert Brown, is on board with it, as well as Lowe's. Lowe's has donated to me about $2,000 worth of equipment, so kudos to them. And I myself on board because I also added another $700 worth of equipment for the volunteers so we can get this project up and going. And I'm going to make this real quick because I know you have better things to do than to see me talking. But listen, this is what my vision is for that street. And I want you to picture this in your mind, all right? I'm talking about luscious green lawns, road maintained, sidewalks cleaned up, grass and dirt out of the roads, Hamlet City signs, city flags going down that road, looking beautiful. That can happen from one little thing. I know people think that I'm a little advantageous about grass and dirt, but it is a sure sign. Now, the DOT has already started cleaning up 74 West. They've already cleaned up those curves, and that looks a lot better than it did before. And so now we just need to do our part on that. And that little part, that little sidewalk and cleanup will just trickle, I'm telling you, it will trickle to other things. And what it will trickle into is people start seeing change, and they'll start seeing improvements. And once people start seeing improvements, they want to get on board. They want to get in early instead of later. And then what happens with that? Then you get a person who travels back and forth down 74. Now I want to buy that home. And maybe it was a rental, but now I want to live in it. And then what happens to the local economy? A real estate agent comes in, they list it, they sell it, revenue to the economy. Then what happens when someone buys a home? They're going to immediately renovate it. And when they renovate it, they're going to have to use the local economy to do the repairs, the brickwork, the siding, the concrete. And then what happens from there is a trickle effect. Then the home is worth more. And how does that benefit the city? Well, that's taxable revenue for the city. Our average age in Hamlet is about 65 to 85 years old. So that will bring in new families, new longevity of revenue is what it's going to bring in the end. And what's going to end up happening is, a lot of times this chamber, you get a lot of problems thrown at you. Problems. Okay, we got this major problem over here, all right? And we need some major resources, money resources to fix that. That 74 corridor, if you help support it, because we need one more part to make this work, that major corridor, that low impact investment will give you maximum returns with an added revenue at the end of it, because that's only going to bring up the values of the residential, which will also bring up the values of the commercial. It is a trickle effect. It's one little simple thing can make that happen. The only piece that we're missing right now with all the municipalities and all the management teams on board and the volunteers on board is just to get one code amended. And Mackenzie's working on that right now, and she's going to be bringing that to TC. And we tabled that till January because we got the holidays, people being sick. Mackenzie, my condolences on what's going on with your family. And that will give us enough time to get that out. At that point, we only need to give notice to the citizens to voice their opinions to the city council, and then the city council can then vote on it to say, hey, yay or nay, we want to do this. That's it.
Not only does it help, all you said, it beautifies the city.
Yes, sir.
It shows that the people and the leaders and the community care
Yes, yes, sir.
on that deal. And
Yes,
I
sir.
applaud that.
Yes, sir. Both of them came together.
Yes.
So, because I totally was agree with you. There's no sense of city spending resources when the citizens themselves are not going to help and keep it up. That's just wasted money. That is just completely wasted money. But if the volunteers come in and the volunteers are lined up and they help maintain it, and it doesn't take a lot. And what I mean by low maintenance, I love grasses. I love purple fountain grass. It's very low maintenance. It looks beautiful in the summertime. It looks beautiful in the winter. When it dies, it still looks good. You chop it once, and it lasts all year long. So it's not taxing on the facilities to have to maintain it. Like lawn. Lawn, you got to grass, you got to keep cutting. But fountain grass, you don't. You chop it one time, it grows over, it looks beautiful, and you keep going. Any questions?
Pine straw is a real problem, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Pine straw, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're country boys. We know pine straw.
Oh, that sounds good.
That code amendment, what's the nature of that y'all are working on?
Well, what we would like to do is, there's no sense of making that street look that beautiful and still having individuals park the cars right in front of the house. And I mean, not in the yard, I mean right in front of the doorstep, all right? We want them to be able to use the side of the homes or the driveways they already have set up for them. That's all we're asking. So, and then I keep maybe some of the junk cars that are parked in the yards as well, because if you have junk cars parked in front of your yard, that also kind of brings it down. Again, it's like a well-tailored suit. If you don't have the tie, you're kind of missing it. If you don't have the belt, you're kind of missing it. So, and that's the only amendment that we're looking for. And of course, we know that I think the standard is 30 days notice to the citizens, and then they can voice their opinions, and then the city council can say yay or nay on that. But even if you don't vote on that, and I hope you do, and I hope you will support it, at least the cleanup is still going to happen. So let's just polish it on off. That's all I'm asking.
Add Councilman Stewart to the cleanup.
Okay, awesome.
I'm be a part of the revolution.
Okay, oh, that sounds great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I got to pull you up my cart. Lowe's give me a nice big gorilla cart. I'll pull it on up there and we'll have a good time.
Wait now.
Gorilla is a strong cart. It's a strong cart. So, does anyone else have any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Now we'll do, there is some, okay. Is there, okay, Jeremy? I'm trying to rush everybody, aren't I?
Good evening, Mayor Gwynn, to the members of the Hamlet City Council. My name is Councilman Jeremy McKenzie, bringing greetings from the town of Ellaby. And I'm here to let y'all know a open invitation. On next Saturday, on November 23rd, we'll have our annual Farmers Day Parade, which y'all know the town of Ellaby is well known for that every year. It'll start at 10 a.m. and it'll end at 3 p.m. And on December the 6th, we'll have our annual Ellaby Hometown Christmas from 5 to 8. So if you ain't got nowhere to go and anywhere to do on that particular two separate times, just come on out and be supportive of us, and we'll return the favor when we can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Jeremy, are you going to be riding in the parade?
Yes, sir.
Throw out a lot of candy.
Okay, I will ask this time. Anybody else? Okay. Proclamation for National Home Care at Home Month.
All right, the mayor has asked me to read this for everyone. Whereas for more than half a century, Care at Home has supported millions of patients nationwide, allowing them to recover from acute illness or injury, navigate activities in their daily lives, or spend their final months at home surrounded by loved ones. Whereas home care offers a person-centered approach to treatment, including expert medical care, quality symptom control, and comprehensive pain management as a foundation of care. And whereas beyond providing physical treatment, home care improves the quality of life for patients by allowing them to remain where they'd most like to reside, and in the case of hospice, attends to patients' emotional, spiritual, and family needs. Whereas in addition to helping patients, home care provides support, respite, and in some cases, counseling service to patients' loved ones and families. And whereas in an increasingly fragmented and difficult to navigate medical system, home care is one of the areas of health care that demonstrates how care can and should work at its best for its patients, offering a full continuum of services. Whereas millions of Americans are recovering from acute illness or injury or living with serious or life-limiting diseases, and their loved ones receive care from home care, hospice, and palliative care providers in communities throughout the United States each year. Whereas home care organizations are advocates and educators about advanced care planning that helps individuals make decisions about the care they want and empowers them to be the architects of their own care plan. And whereas the central philosophy of home care puts patients first, ensuring a coordinated and person-centered approach to care, protecting patient choice, and access to individualized services based on a patient's unique needs and wishes. And whereas care at home is a valuable resource that should be available for all Americans and their loved ones, now therefore be it resolved that I, Amy H. Gwynn, Mayor by virtue of the authority vested in me by Hamlet, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as National Care at Home Month and encourage citizens to increase their understanding and awareness of home, hospice, and palliative care, discuss their health care wishes with their families, and observe this month with appropriate activities and programs.
Thank you, Abby. And I think we have 2 hospice employees here tonight. Thank you for coming. And then proclamation for Remembrance Day.
All right, this is a proclamation that is for a family in our community, and I'm going to ask that they come forward, please, as we read this. This is the family of Donald McDuffie, who is the recipient, I guess posthumously, of this proclamation. And we wanted to present this to, these are his brothers, and that's his brother and his 2 sisters. And I think he's his nieces and your nephews. Okay. And we welcome you all, and thank you so much for coming. Whereas more than 70 years ago, a generation of Americans were summoned to serve the United States of America during the Korean War, and whereas through 3 years of combat and captivity, American service members and Allied forces overcame some of the most unforgiving conditions in modern warfare. They fought with courage and distinction. Many Americans suffered wounds, both physical and mental, that would never fully heal, and many more were captured and tortured. And whereas most of all, we honor the Americans who gave their lives defending countries they had never known and people they had never met. Their legacy lives on in the hearts of the American people. And whereas more than 7 decades later, we renew the call to honor and reflect, now and forever, let us pay tribute to all veterans by upholding the ideals they fought to protect, and by supporting them with the care and respect they so deeply deserve. And whereas we salute and pay tribute to the unwavering bravery of United States Army Private First Class Clem D. McDuffie, 18, of Hamlet, North Carolina, who was killed in action on November the 30th, 1950, after his unit was attacked by the Chinese People's Volunteer Army as they attempted to withdraw near the Chosin Reservoir in North Korea. Private First Class McDuffie was accounted for August the 26th, 2024, and will be returned to home to be buried in Hamlet on November the 30th, 2024, 74 years after his death. Now, I, therefore, declare Amy Gwynn, Mayor of the City of Hamlet, proclaim November the 30th, 2024 as Remembrance Day in the City of Hamlet, and direct flags to be flown at half-staff. urge our residents to observe this day in honor of Clem D. McDuffie and his service.
Speaking for the family, we appreciate Mayor Gwynn, council members for recognizing our brother in his sacrifice. And this is happiness now that we are finally having closure and bringing him home exactly 74 years after his death. Thank you.
All right, next is our audit report from Ken Anderson.
How's everyone?
Hey, Ken.
I don't know, you tell us.
Well, it's mixed. Do you have your sheets? Your little summary sheets?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's what I'm going to go over briefly. Okay, the first, y'all been through this before a few times. The first two columns I have is the fund balance. And of course, the general fund and the water sewer fund are the two major funds here. And you can see that the general fund, of course, we have about 7 years worth of information here. Overall, it's been going up. The last year actually went down a good bit. There was actually a loss. Expenditures were greater than revenues by a significant amount, $742,000. The water sewer fund, across from that, the other fund actually went up slightly, about $40,000. And down at the bottom of the page, we have tax collection rates. This year's rate, the rate that the town, the city collects is 94.42%, which is slightly up from last year, and it's in the same range as the last 5 or 6 years. Okay, if we flip the next page. And this actually references the audit report on page 1. You had an independent, an unmodified opinion, which is a good report. And what that really means is that the information that we were given, we were able to do an audit and all the numbers checked out and so forth. On page 18, that's the general fund, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where the expenditures exceeded revenues by $742,000. I think the greatest increase that I saw when I looked at it was in the law enforcement or the public safety area. There was about an increase from the year before, somewhere around $700,000-800,000. So I think that's the bulk of it. On page 20, you have the water sewer fund, and that was an increase for the year of $26,323 there. Page 49, that's debt, and there is no debt, whether it's in the governmental fund or the business type fund here at Hamlet. The city had no budget over expenditures, which that's a good sign. A lot of times with smaller units, we have quite a few of those. It means things are not being kept up with well, but that's not the case here. The city was subject to a single audit during the year. It's the American Rescue Plan Act. And there was 3 sort of tranches of money in different funds. One was in the ARPA fund itself. That was the money you got, the coronavirus a few years ago. I think you finally spent all that money. And then there was a little bit in the water sewer improvement capital project and in the general fund. It was about $722,000, and we had no compliance issues with those. The audit's been accepted. We have not completed the annual financial information report yet, but that will be done shortly. The audit went fine. I would say Edna's not here tonight, but she really has in the last 2-3 years, she's really improved a lot. I know a lot of the information the first year when it was sort of thrown upon her, it was a trying audit for her. But this year, I think we had pretty much all the information laid out for us before we could really even ask for it. So she really has stepped up. The controls and everything are fine here. It's a small unit, so it's not perfect. But overall, I think things are running smoothly. The only real thing is that as you would see on the very first page, where that percentage, where you went the year before, 2 years ago, 72%, 66.9, 48.6. That would be the only concern, is the expenditure trend, because the ARPA money's gone. A lot of that was used to sort of pay for salaries and benefits, and of course, some of the money from the county's not there anymore either. So you just have to be a little tighter going forward. That's about all I have.
And we were all in compliance with that AR money? No, nothing that was done out of?
Yeah, I think so. You guys used it well, no, you did use some for capital expenditures. Yeah, most people used it for salaries and benefits, but Matt wanted to use for several different purposes.
Problem with that is you can't replace it when money runs out. Capital expenditures is a one-time thing. That's why we didn't use it for salaries.
That's right, the salary part won't, you'll have to budget accordingly.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Ken.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, item number 10, code enforcement presentation. Officer Dalton Millen. How exciting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I appreciate you hearing our update on code enforcement. I was feeling pretty good until I heard we spent $700 and some thousand, and I didn't add any staff or equipment, so I'm going to have to ask some questions tomorrow, see where that money was. Hearing the citizens come up today, and I'm going to turn it over to Officer Millen here in a second. You know, it's coming up on my 4th year, and those of us that were here 4 years ago, I sat in this same room with you, and we had a gentleman come up from Spring Street. I think you remember. He was in tears, almost to tears, that he was requiring his children to sleep on the floor at night. Remember that? Because of all the violence and gunshots. That first year, we had 26 people get shot. If you go back to 2015, there was an article written about Hamlet. We're one of the most dangerous cities in the state of North Carolina. Well, we've come a long way since then. Now we're not even in the top 50 anymore. We're a lot safer than the communities that are on the 74 corridor, which is where most of those cities are that meet that population criteria. We've come a long way. Crime's down 30–40%. It's a safe community to the point, you know, my girls go to Fairview Middle, and one of their friends stopped them the other day and said how much Hamlet has changed, because before we got here, you would see what she called scary people walking down the street, and her parents wouldn't let her out at night because they were worried they were going to get in trouble or get shot. And now, anywhere you go in Hamlet, you see children playing. You see people walking without being attacked by packs of wild dogs, which is something else we dealt with. You see families moving in. You see investment on Spring Street. You see people that care for the city. We had these meetings, people would come in and say, why aren't we doing more? Why isn't my city safe? Now, we get to deal with quality of life issues. That's a nice place to be for us. The city's come a long way. We couldn't have done it without you. You've supported this department, you've funded this department, and you've allowed us to build an exceptional team to address the challenges that have faced Hamlet. Don't get me wrong, we still have challenges. We're doing the 5K. A lady from Rockingham was running, and she stopped, I think it was Major Chitwood, and said, you know, I'm kind of gathering Hamlet's a lot safer than Rockingham. Well, it is. I think they're, what, number 14 on the list? Something like that. we're not even in the top 50. Okay? From Charlotte to Lumberton, which is the most violent, Wadesboro will be number 2nd. We're not even on that list anymore. That's a substantial change. And we couldn't have done it without your support. You've invested in me, you've invested in this department, and it's showing off. One of the things that's been critical in that's been your support. The second has been our endeavors to improve code enforcement in the city of Hamlet. There really hasn't been code enforcement. When I started, Ms. Gale was doing code enforcement, and it was per complaint based. Met with the manager at the time. We discussed it as part of our integral plan of crime reduction through environmental controls. Thank you. And we took on the mantle of doing code enforcement. At the time, me and Matt agreed it would be about 10% of a job. If you recall, we transitioned away from having a full-time front desk person to help provide for the code enforcement position without increasing the overall budget. With that understanding, they were going to have 10 cases at a time. They would work those 10 cases. At the conclusion of that, they would move on or add another case. In addition to doing that, the officer also serves as our juvenile officer, which means they're in contact with juvenile court system. As you know, we have a lot of, in the area, we have a lot of juvenile issues, especially in our school systems. We have 5 schools in our coverage area. They cover the front desk. They back up patrol. As you understand, we are contractually bound to provide an SRO to RCC, though we only pay $50,000. Laurinburg charges them the full amount of a law officer. So when that person's out, we have to put someone out there. That would be that position. So the many duties that Officer Millen does is just not code enforcement. The benefit of it is recently code enforcement has consumed most of his duties. And I think we had a de-stress meeting about a week ago because it has increased, and as a result, the community's becoming cleaner. We still have an 80% compliance rate with our code enforcement efforts. Our animal control officer, Tucker, also helps us with some code enforcement. So we didn't get here overnight. This program here, Officer Millen's worked hard on it, and I think he hadn't done a PowerPoint since the 9th grade, which for him was about 5 years ago. For me, it was about 35 years ago, 40 years ago. But he's put a lot of effort into it. Go through it. I think he'll happily answer any questions you may have. Before I turn it over, I just want to say that there's going to be an ending piece here, and especially after the accountant just left. This is going to require more investment. There's no way around it. We can't fix 50 years of neglect with the current resources that we have. Something Interim Manager Bailey has been fantastic about. He started and he said, we're going to fix this. And we've had more movement on code enforcement in the 4 months that Mr. Bailey's been here in the 4 years I've been here. So I'm grateful for that. You ready? All right.
Can I say something, Chief? We could not get over there without the great leadership. And it takes good leadership to bring the teams together. And I thank you and all your department. Thank you.
I have a good team. You have a very good team.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, I'm Officer Dalton Millen, the Police Department. I handle code enforcement. Tonight I put together a presentation to show y'all a little about the properties, nuisance, and abandoned properties throughout the city of Hamlet.
Oh, God.
As you can see, this is our code enforcement ArcGIS map, and all these little dots and stars are the properties scattered throughout the city of Hamlet that's either abandoned or nuisance properties. So to start off with, our first topic is burned properties. A lot of these properties that have been previously damaged by fire, structure fire, or any type of fire, these properties are in the worst condition. Homes and commercial structures within this criteria that hold a big safety hazard to our city. You got a lot of asbestos materials out there, different things that's in his house, you know, once they burn down. I mean, it's pretty bad stuff. So I want to show you some pictures of a lot of the burned properties, and this is probably There's probably some tucked throughout Hamlet that I probably overlooked, but I'm definitely going back. This is one to start off with.
And I think the reason why we're highlighting this first, because those would be the easiest for the city to clean up, the least amount of expense, right? They're already done. We have a fantastic fire department, as you see, that saves a lot of houses. I'm very proud of their effort, let me tell you.
Appreciate that, Chief. This is 426 Champlain Street. It actually recently caught fire maybe about, a year ago, Chief Goodwin. We've had a lot of complaints on this house dealing with squatters, nuisance. And as you can see, the back structure is very well burned and inside the home. This is 315 Henderson Street, which is another burned home. As you can see, there's a little bit of charring on top of the roof where it was burned. It's just been sitting there. Nobody has done nothing with it in the past. This is 398 High Street. This structure fire actually happened a few months back, if I recall. I was out there. I think it caught on fire because a firework hit the rooftop, if I remember. We went out there, and it actually burned. I tried to get a hold of the owner. Still haven't had no luck with them, or basically wanting them to come forward and work with it. And it's actually burnt, and it's open to the public as far as charring and stuff. 316 Raleigh Street. This house, once again, another structure fire. It was there. Owner didn't come back, didn't do nothing with the property. It stands as it is. It's a big safety concern. 521 Hamlet Avenue. This was a structure fire, I believe, last year. It actually burnt the whole back end of the house, and below actually had fire damage, and it's still standing as today beside the gas station. Okay, level 1 properties. These are the most severe properties that I categorized. They're abandoned, and we get a lot of calls with squatters living inside residents. Being that I'm part of a great department, we take care of that situation and try to get them away from there, out of the property. It's dangerous to the health and substantial risk for our city. With that being said, once again, I said about the burned properties, it's a very hazardous environment. Kids running around, allowed to go inside and play in these houses. It's a big ordeal. And numerous complaints about these houses. There's people that call in all the time, when's these houses going to be tore down? Well, we got to get an action in place to basically go forward with demolition of these houses. 427 Carr Street. This was the former New Hope adult care home. We actually had people that were staying inside there trespassing. It's actually got the roof is caving in, water and stuff's coming inside. It's very moldy. It's no point. You can't save this property. As you can tell, it's the picture. If I had more inside pictures, you could understand what I'm talking about. This is 335 Raleigh Street. As you can tell, it's very bad overgrowth, a lot of busted out windows, and it's been sitting there for years, and that's how it stands as of today. 222 Hamlet Avenue. I know a lot of us pass by this all the time. I know y'all seen it a bunch. 501 Lackey Street. There's a lot of people in the community I've heard, they call this the skeleton house. I don't know where this came from, but so that's this house. It actually stands as it is today. 708 Seaboard Street. As you can tell, there's a lot of the windows boarded up, a lot of stuff you can't even see inside, the house, trees overgrowth. 400 Pine Street, another overgrowth problem, abandoned structure. Nobody hasn't done nothing with the property in a long time. 401 Pine Street. You can see along the roof line here where a lot of stuff, and it's probably caving in. I'm not in construction by any means, but they actually patched this roof, and it's actually got worse now. It's boarded up windows, and that's how it stands. 320 East Main Street. And I know y'all probably can't see it, There's a house right back there. There's a porch. You could probably see like the railing on this side. It's right down here. You can't miss us on the right. I think they might have cleaned up a little bit around it, but that's it. 122 Parker Street. Been numerous calls for service at this house. There's no front door in this house. People's going in and out of it, just staying inside of it. And the roof now is starting to cave in. The other day I drove past a house. 211 Spring Street. This is another one of our famous squatter residents. We had one that was staying inside this house. It's very holes inside the floors, the roof. It's very, the floor is rotten. There's no chance of saving this house. 317 High Street, as you can tell, more overgrowth, more deteriorating of the property. 400 Raleigh Street. I think y'all know this as the former midget. I think that's what they used to call it back in the day. So the midget's done gone. The roof's caved in. There ain't much left of it. It's got OSB board. There's got a hole right there. You see on the right side. I mean, it's pretty much well had it. Level 2. These are also abandoned, also nuisance properties, and they're less severe, what I categorize, and most of the structure is still intact and standing. 806 Pine Street. As you can see, overgrowth. A lot of the front of the house is actually falling apart. Nobody ain't really kept up with the property. 505 Spring Street. This is another one. The house is hidden back there. You can see part of the eave right here in the roof. That's a big concern. As you all know, Spring Street, the houses are right beside each other. So that being said, something was to fall or a tree or anything part of this house, kids out there playing, it's substantial risk to our town and the kids. 499 High Street. I believe this was a former church. It's been this way for as long as I can remember. So I've been here for going on 28 years. So it's been like that way for a long time.
Yeah, it used to be a laundromat.
Mm-hmm.
601 Oakland Avenue. More overgrowth. Nobody's done nothing with the property. This one, I believe it's actually, the floor is actually on the front of the house. You walk up on the porch, it's actually starting to cave in too right there where it's just deteriorating, rotting the wood materials. 703 King Street. That's right in front of the gas station when you go to Earl Franklin towards Auburn Heights. That's been there. I think they was trying to sell it. There's not been really no action being taken on this property at all. 102 West Avenue. As you can tell, plywood's on the windows, roofs starting to give in. You can start seeing on the front. Just a food for thought, throw it out there. It's OSB on the windows and stuff. You know, we're talking about Hamlet and how people view us as a city and as a community. And a lot of people that come complain to me, well, why they got OSB board on the windows? That right there is an eyesore. You know, there's a lot of people that it's like that around here. It's been that way for years. They just put new plywood on it. 517 Durham Street. A lot of overgrowth, severe. It's more abandoned house. 400 Hamlet Avenue. As you can tell, I reckon that's almost kind of like a skeleton house. You can't really see the front porch. You got a little entryway, but it's got severe conditions in it also. 122 Hamlet Avenue. This house, for as long as I remember, there was a lot of drug activity. I know when I was growing up, it was right here to the left of it because they used to sit out there a lot. That house has been that way for years, and it's actually starting to fall in. I think the owner was actually trying to be in a process of getting it tore down. So 509 Durham Street. This is another one, severe overgrowth, abandoned property. Level 3, structure is still intact, still a nuisance property. Structures have plywood on the windows and doors. It could possibly be renovated. most of these houses. Washington Avenue Apartments. Been out here on a few calls for service. There's actually a few residents living in one of the buildings, but in the very back, it had previous fire damage, if I recall, Chief. We had people living in there. There's actually drug paraphernalia on the floor where they was going there drinking and stuff. More squatters are living inside these places. 149 Susan Road. This used to be, I don't know if Herbert Bruce's trailer park out there on Susan Road. They're actually redoing this trailer, I believe, currently now. I actually have a good contact with the person that owns these trailers. And he's got a guy that's actually remodeling the one across from, which was a big concern and a big trouble to the city of Hamlet because we received numerous calls for service out there, and it was falling apart. I mean, you had to basically walk across the hole to get to the kitchen. You could see down in the trailer. It was that bad. I think Mr. Cluis could agree with me on that.
I've made several calls.
Yes. 148 Susan Road. This is the property I was talking about that they're renovating. They actually put new windows on this property. I went by the other day, spoke to the gentleman, and he's cleaned up the property a good bit. So I'm seeing cooperation with that. 101 Monroe Avenue. As you tell, more plywood. I think that's an open door. I can see. You start to see some of the roof too. Yeah, you could probably, fix that, but it's been boarded up for a while. 104 Monroe Avenue. Basically just overgrowth is sitting there, doors, windows boarded up. Nobody's done nothing with it. 1 Car Street. This is beside the New Hope adult home. This building, it's got pipes hanging from the ceiling. Inside, we actually had an open door there. One day we had to check it out. Water, it's got mold inside. It's very nasty. It's bad. 704 Minturn. This is at the bottom of the hill. I believe it used to be the Bishop home, from my understanding. I've actually reached out to a gentleman in Arlington, Virginia. Me and him has been in close contact where him and his wife was wanting to buy this property. And I believe he owns one next to it and actually renovate it and make it into a newer house. But he was wanting to know, as far as the process going forward, what would he have to do, to renovate it and what we could do with the city to work with him because he wanted to do something because he said it was an eyesore. They are, but the ones from Arlington, Virginia is interested in buying it and turning it into, yes. 800 Lackey Street. This has been a pretty good improvement here. We had a lot of calls out here before. I went by there. Chief Brown's been by there and a lot of guys on the road where they're actually renovating. They put new sheet metal up, and I think they're actually going to make it like into a supply house. Coffin factory.
What?
Yeah. So, yes. And they cleaned it up. They actually, they detimbered the property, a lot of it. So they're straightening it up. So good thing for the city. 204 Hamlet Avenue. This is actually, I believe it's the John Coltrane Center where the NAACP building is. It's right beside there. If you look inside there, it's the building's still intact, but inside, the roof, if I understand, apartment's gone, but it's just woods, and kazoo growing inside. Really not much been done inside. 306 Raleigh Street. This is right behind I believe the carport place on Raleigh Street. And as you can see, everything's still intact. I believe you might need a stabilization here on the eave, like it's leaning or something, but it's just been sitting there for all these years. What funds are we working with? As far as condemning, we got $20,000 in that budget. A building inspection code enforcement budget, we had $2,000 right now. What do we need? Commitment to code enforcement. As Chief Brown said before, I took on this job. I have basically 40 or 50 years of neglect and people let houses go. I took it apart myself and made the best out of it I can for the city and for the people. And it's came a long way. It ain't been easy by any means, but we need more commitment, more support. If we're gonna go this route, we will need equipment, supplies, assistance from our public works. We can get out there as far as a lot of times, demoing our own properties with our own equipment. That goes from anything from excavators, trackhoes, equipment like that we need, and the funds. That being said, I've also recently learned too, condemning a house, it ain't just overnight thing. It takes like a year or two. So we're talking 40 years of property, 40 years, 40 properties. It's going to take at least maybe 2 a year. I think I was sitting down just roughly, just looking at over a decade to possibly catch up. I mean, it's going to be not an overnight thing, but we can do it with the proper funds and equipment and the support. Interim Manager Bailey is developing a plan for these tasks also.
Real quick, before we jump in and answer questions, Lane, me, the mayor, Dalton McKenzie have met. We've come up with some pretty progressive plans on how to expedite some of this process. One example is several of these properties just want to give them to the city. Well, we may not want to do that, but we're working with TC to get an agreement where they'll let us demo the house and the lot reverts back to them, right? There's a cost and things like that. Sometimes we're going to have to take some of this on the chin. We've also talked to TC about having his firm train Dalton how to take more of the actions in court, right? Issue the stuff. Normally, Gail would send the letters and it gets shipped to TC and they handle it. A good way to save us money if everybody has to be okay with it, that we can start taking more of that on our shoulders within his acceptable guidelines and Lane's agreement. We got to start somewhere. It's a big issue, y'all. And like Officer Millen said, this is our calling card. This is what people see when they drive through Hamlet. They don't see, like I said before, the kids out playing and families having rejoicing and spending time in our parks. They see this, so it's not going to be fixed overnight, and it's going to take more resources. So,
have you contacted any companies that are interested in doing any type of basically raising these properties, just taking them down?
As of right now, when we actually, Chief Brown was saying we met with McKenzie, it's all new to me. I've got, I believe, a gentleman that does asbestos and stuff and the demolition. I was told about some of the people that can tear them down. But once again, I'm just trying to learn, as far as which ones I need to go to. Mm-hmm. So I got people as far as the asbestos, you got to get them inspected first for asbestos to even tear them down, burn them or anything. That's something I could use McKenzie's help on far as, for the buildings, people to actually tear down these homes, far as doing that.
20,000 will basically get you 2 homes and 1 commercial property.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Especially
me and Matt worked on that in the past.
The disposal fees are exorbitant.
Yes, ma'am. That's where that number come from. That was 2 years ago. Me and Matt got those numbers. We're lucky to get 2. We're lucky to get 1 commercial property.
You reckon we could talk to the county about waiving any fees for disposal in an effort to clean up the community?
That came up in our conversation too. We just need guidance.
I spoke with somebody with the city of Rockingham. They said actually in the past, I think their fees, once they went to the landfill, when they went to dispose of the material, it was around $6,000 to $7,000.
To pay the fees at the landfill?
Yes, ma'am.
One of the couple of things, it might be 1 or 2 that you can get for the 20. And I also understand when talking with Robert Brown, I'm not certain that we can take these materials to our landfill. I think we have to take them to Montgomery or Anson County where they would take them there.
Because of the containment of hazardous materials, asbestos and things like that.
Yes. The The next item on the agenda, we have budgeted them in for a couple of things, and one of those is a track hoe where we'd, in a bucket truck, where we'd finish spending off the ARPA funds that we talked about earlier this evening. If we have a track hoe, that would help our Public Works Department in a couple of different areas, but it also allow them to help remove some of this debris if we were to burn those down.
And then we just haul it to Anderson County?
Yes.
Is there a fee for disposal?
There'd be a fee for disposal of that too. So,
Is it worse than the fee at Richmond County?
well, it's not a matter of worse, it's that we couldn't take it to Richmond County.
But
So-
I mean, if it's $6,000 in Richmond County, are we looking at another $4,000 because it's considered hazardous waste?
I'm not sure of the cost, but it would be less to do that than to do one the traditional way if we're helping facilitate that.
Okay.
And some of these, they're burned beyond the point of where our fire department could burn them down for training. We may be able to do some things, but the idea is if the ones that we could burn, do that with training, clean that up with a track hoe, and then look at options to dispose of the property to try to recoup some of the cost. It may be that the two adjoining property owners might want to purchase the property in the middle. There may be, maybe it'd be a lot that you could use. I don't think we're going to make money off the lots, though.
No.
In this case, it'll be a losing
Be
proposition.
nice if we made enough money to pay for the condemnation.
Yes.
TC, do we have to, what kind of process do we have to go through? Can we just simply declare them a public nuisance, public health, a health hazard that allows us to remediate this damage?
So council members who are on the board, and I know you've served for many years, I don't know if your time overlapped when Gail Strickland was here, but she had the process down kind of to a well-oiled machine where she essentially was able to do demolitions up to the limit of her budget every year. And what she saw, or what she did, which I think is the correct process, is she'd use the minimum housing code process, which if you have someone that lives in the house or they want to contest it, it can be really drawn out. But if you have an abandoned structure like the ones that we've seen tonight, it's essentially there's an opportunity for notice and hearing for the property owner, and then they bring an order to you all, which you adopt, gets recorded at the Register of Deeds, then the city's free to do the demolition work.
What kind of timeline does that take?
Again, if you have a property that's abandoned, so you don't really have a property owner who's wanting to fight with the city about it, I think that the timeline that you gave is a good one. I think it can be done shorter period of time if we, because one thing I really like about what you all have done is you prioritize, so we have a good sense of where we're starting. I think that helps. I think you could get it done in as little as 6 months from start to finish, but always variables. But
A single property?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We would do multiple at one time.
That's what I was going to say. We could do more than one at one time.
Correct. We would just, first 30 property or 20 properties and let's go.
And it may be that if you all are able to do a bunch at a time, there's some kind of economy of scale. You can get a contractor who will come and do all the projects in a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
We've never looked at it that way, but I
That's
think it's a
what I
great
was
idea.
thinking.
It is a very large problem.
Well, I know.
And again, not really law enforcement, but, we took this on because we wanted to clean handle it. And this is just, seems like if we get it done, right? So if it's gotta get done, we'll get it done. That's what we do.
You can identify the properties, but then we have to take care of the disposal.
I
You
can
get
run
the
a
easy
track hoe.
job.
I can run a track hoe. Cut me loose on it.
Okay, you get to play with it. That might be fun.
Yeah, it would be. I cleaned up all 40 of them in about 2 days.
Yeah.
Be careful what you say.
I know, be careful what you wish for.
So
Maybe we
have you
could recruit
finished
enough
your,
volunteers to jump in on this project too, Esco.
so does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, ma'am, it does. I just want to say thank y'all to the council. Once again, it's been tough, but I just want to let y'all know I'll do the best of my ability to make sure this is taken care of. We have a better city for our citizens.
Well, thank
Did
you
a
for
great
your
job.
for your
Can we add some
presentation.
more? I saw there's some more around within the city limits that they didn't see on there, and on Hamlet Avenue. Can we give you those addresses?
That is perfectly fine. Anytime y'all need anything, I have my business cards in the city hall. Feel free to contact me anytime. I got a work phone. It stays on. So I'll help you any way I can. Just let me know.
We got one on Hamlet Avenue.
He has a code enforcement phone, so that's where all of them go.
Yes.
And Mr. Sellers, our cuppeth runneth over.
Yeah, let's try to work on this list that we currently have and make some progress. Make him feel good that he's making progress. But thank you so much for all you've done.
Dalton.
And hopefully we
Thank you for
will
a great presentation.
move forward with getting some of those taken care of.
Thank you so much first for calling me and getting in touch with me, Madam Mayor. Yes, ma'am. Some of the houses are not on that list. The house next to my house is not on that list. My house, that house is a small house. I've been working on this for now about 14 to 15 years. When you say 6 months, I'm like, where? Because it hasn't happened here. I'm not saying anything against anybody, but that's the reason I'm here, because I want to hear what's going to happen. The street I live on is William Street. I don't know if anybody knows William Street, but that is the 74, the short 74. I've gotten speed signs up there because they come through there like it is 74, actually. I'm scared to back out of my driveway. Someone said to me, I'm more afraid of you backing out of your driveway than going onto the highway. They come that fast. I spoke with Mr. Martin about 18-wheelers coming down my street. Chicken trucks, food lines, any truck that you can think of, they come down William Street. William Street is not as long as from Burger King to where the park is. That short street, if anybody doesn't know, it comes off the wire. The one house there, I was told at one time that it would cost more to get a lawyer to go to the person to get them to come and take care of their house than to tear it down. I said, well, you know what? I'm not doing anything. You need somebody to call somebody, hire me part-time. I'll call anybody you want. I don't have a problem with it because it's been there. I have animals coming in my house, around my house. I'm scared to go outside. Now that it's dark, I have to call my brother to ask him to wait outside for me to go in my house. Because that house is so much, and am I wrong? It's so much, you can't see the house. You can't see what's over there. And for me to walk into my house, I don't know what's there. So I asked, can they at least just call somebody to clean it up? You don't have to tear the house down, which it needs to be tore down, but just clean it up. So what I did, I cut down trees, and I put it in the path that goes from that house down the food line. So if they try to come through there anymore, they'll walk all in the trees that I had cut down to block them from coming through. That was the only thing I could think of. I have security around the house. I can't afford to get lights to shine on that house to see what's coming through it. My neighbor was robbed. Where was their stuff found? In that house, underneath the house. I say now, and like I said, if I want to get a fence, I got to pay for a fence. If I want to get a permit to carry a gun, if somebody comes and steps to me and I shoot them, I'm going to be in one of those. So I don't know what else to do. This has been over 14 years that I have been trying to do this, and then now I hear 6 months. My house isn't even, I don't know if it's on the list, but it's not up there. Those houses are large houses. My house is a small house. My house can probably be the, example to the rule. They could come in there with a bulldozer and knock it down. There's holes on the side of the house. I'm sorry to take up this time, but this is the first time I had a chance to speak to everybody. Because yes, I live in Hamlet City. That's my street. We have to go out there and clean that street. Just because it's a short street, that is still our neighborhood. And we don't get it taken care of like we should. If I want anything done on that street, we have to call to have somebody come on that street and clean the street. Cut the grass. Cut the bushes that come off of that street onto 74 so that you can see on 74 so you don't have to go halfway in the middle of the street, on the corner.
I said actually, that's what I said.
You did, thank you. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's what I expect. You don't have to pull in the 74 to see around the big old gate.
Madam Mayor, can I answer?
Mayor?
Madam Mayor, can I respond to that when you have a
Please
moment?
do.
Ma'am, I appreciate, Chief Brown, I appreciate you coming forward. I'm humbled in the fact that we can now get to a point as a community to start addressing these issues. I did submit a traffic plan to the former manager several years ago. It did deal with Williams Street. Some signage, some restrictions, some traffic, some speed reductions, that and Spring Street. I can forward those again to Mr. Bailey. At the time, we didn't want to pursue, those weren't pursued. The last house that we went to destroy was 2.5 years ago, and it finally was resolved in the North Carolina Court of Appeals just recently. So we can try, and what we try to do is Officer Millen will get with you as soon as we're finished, and he'll get your information, and we're going to make sure that that house is on our list, and we'll start making phone calls and address it. But as TC said, as long as everybody commits and plays and says, yes, you can destroy my house, we're good. But if they don't, we haven't taken down a house in, I think, since I've been here, so it's 4 years. And the last one literally just resolved at the North Carolina Court of Appeals. So we paid this gentleman's firm about 10 times what that house was worth. So what we're trying to do is find other alternatives so that we don't have to go down that route every time. And we started with the process of finding the houses that would be the most expeditedly cleared and at the lowest cost for the city, and then advance from there. So what we can do is, Millen's going to talk to you. We'll bring forth that speed stuff to the manager. He'll decide if he wants to pursue it and if he wants council to be a part of it. But he'll start making contacts and follow up with you and make sure you have his phone number, because you should not have to worry the way you are. Hamlet's a different city, as I said, than what it was 4 years ago, and our citizens shouldn't have to fear and live like that. So,
You on the north side or the south side of 74?
I'm on where the caution light is from Wiregrass.
Okay.
Going across.
You're on the north side.
And also,
Okay.
I was told they haven't paid taxes on that property.
I think there's a house on the south side also, if I'm not mistaken.
you are correct.
Yeah, there's one on there.
Again, everybody, massive issue, right?
Well, I wouldn't have a problem, but I've been doing this now for about 14, 15 years.
I-
I've been trying to get that.
I agree, but him and I had a nice cry in my office about 2 weeks ago, because it is such a big issue, that, it's, again, when he started out this process, this was gonna be 1/10 of his job. It's 100% of his job now. So, I know it's gonna take us some time, but we will make contact with you, and we'll get you on the list, and that gentleman's very good, and he'll follow up with you.
And keep in mind too, everything that I'm saying, like, Councilman Sellers was saying, there's probably more properties I don't have listed here. I don't want you, to think I didn't, but it's probably one I know it's there, but also my nerves too, putting this presentation together. Like I said, this is a whole new thing for me, and I try to do it the best I can in my hand, what I got. So, I'm trying.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Item number 11, budget amendment. Do I have a motion to, on that?
Mayor, would you like me to just highlight those?
Is this the track code that they were talking about?
It's one of those. The first one is for the work that we have to do for the landfill. This is the brush debris permit renewal with Withers and Ravenel.
Is that for our landfill out on Highway 74 East?
Yes, the debris landfill. The next is for Traco purchase. Part of that money would come out of our wastewater fund. We would use this primarily there to maintain our sewer line right-of-ways, but we could also use it in the general fund, and we're using ARPA funds left over. Our CPA mentioned that tonight. If you adopt these budget amendments, that would finish off the ARPA revenue that we had. And then the third budget amendment is we had funds left over from the ARPA funds that we would use to finish off those two projects there.
I move that we approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 12, public hearing about the Blakely property at 101 Gin Mill Road. I am opening the floor to public hearing. Now, are there any comments? Public comments? If not, I will close the public hearing. We now need to do a consistency statement and decision of the Blakely property rezoning. Tony, you probably know more about this than anybody here.
Yeah, it's the property in the forks of the road as you go out.
Gin Mill Road.
Gin Mill Road, Blakely Street Extension, depends on how far back you want to go. But it's the property in the forks of the road. It's been commercial, residential, commercial, back and forth, and they're trying to do, they want to do commercial again. They're going to do some, like a little flower type shop, I think it is there. And so the zoning board voted that it was consistent with the property around, so I make a motion
They were all for it.
yes,
Zoning all for it.
yeah, I make a motion we accept the consistency statement
Second.
for the Blakely property.
A second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then I need a motion to rezone the property.
So move.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item number 14, consideration of memorial light system bid.
Mayor, this is a grant that McKinsey worked on. Mr. Martin made us aware of this grant. We were awarded the grant and bid on the lights. We had one vendor. We talked to several different firms, but we're very happy with this vendor and recommend approval.
Out of Houston, Texas. Wow. This bid, I assume, includes installation?
Yes, yes.
And we got $200,000 from the Cole Foundation for this?
Yes.
I move that we accept this bid.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, city manager's report.
A lot of it would be covered in what we've already talked about. Auditor talked about the issue of our fund balance in the general fund dropping, and I think we still have a solid fund balance, but the amount that it went down in 1 year is concerning. Ed and I are beginning to start to look at, believe it or not, the 25-26 fiscal year budget, and that's one thing that we will have to be mindful of is how much fund balance that we budget. We've traditionally budgeted fund balance to balance the budget. But just that'll be a challenge for us as we get ready for the next fiscal year. We're beginning to look at some preliminary work on the Opera House, or not work, but looking at some of the issues this week. The architect will be in town on Thursday. We'll have a drone looking at the ceiling and the roof, and we'll let you know how that goes. And you had asked about what McKenzie's doing with the code issues. The planning board will be reviewing our code of ordinances just as we look at some of the code complaints. They really need to be updated. The one example that we like to give is that you can have up to 7 cars parked in your front yard, and that's not something that you would normally see. So we're looking at going through all of that, and the planning board McKenzie would be working with the planning board to get those recommendations to you.
Okay.
When you come in on the architecture coming, would it be any cost to the city for them coming and doing the evaluation?
You all have already approved.
We've already approved that.
Approved that, sir, yes.
Okay.
All right, comments from council? Mr. Martin?
Well, the only thing I have, I'm real glad that the McDuffie family finally got a closure for their loved one. And I think that there's gonna be a service out at March Creek Church.
11 o'clock on the 30th.
On the 30th, 11 o'clock. That's all I have.
Yep. All right. Mr. Stewart?
Once again, love to the McDuffie family. No brainer. Glad to do that. Absolutely. Welcome, Tony Cluis. Great to serve with you. To the citizens of Hamlet, I'm smiling on the inside. This is what we need. Tonight, the last couple meetings and tonight, just to have citizens come and talk about everything that's going on in the city, what concerns you. I see people in Walmart and Food Line. Sometimes I have to go late at night so I can get in and get out of there. But I talk to people every day in the streets about things like this, and they won't come to the meetings. And so this is proof that if you come to the meetings, voice your concerns, you can add your causes to our agendas. So completely continue to do what you're doing. Thank you, citizens, and please continue to come to the meetings. This is what we're here for every single day. This is why we were elected to do this. So thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Sellers?
I'd like to offer my condolences too, and glad for the closure to the family of McDuffie family. I'd like to thank all the veterans, active and the past. I'd like to thank them all for their services and their sacrifices. And I'd also like to thank Brother Cluis for your interest in coming back to the council, and congratulations. Welcome aboard.
All right, Mr. Cluis?
I'd like to say, thank the council for having confidence in me to allow me to come back, and I'm gonna do my best for the citizens of Hamlet. I'd also like to offer my condolences to the McDuffie family. I didn't realize Mr. McDuffie and Miss Venable were brother and sister. I've known both of them for years, and so I have learned something tonight. So, but I do offer my condolences, and I'm gonna try to be at the service because that is a wonderful thing. It just took 74 years, and we're sorry about that. But I do appreciate everyone, the council and all. I would like for the gentleman, I don't remember your name, everybody knows your name, and I've seen you on.
Esco Latimer.
Esco. Esco. Keep us informed. Maurice has spoke up. He said he's going to volunteer, but please keep us informed. Let McKenzie know so she can know what's going on. If at all possible, I'll try to help myself. I am retired, and I'm enjoying retired life. So, but I will try to help out. And we're back and forth to the mountains, helping with some of those efforts also. So, but we thank you, City Council, and I appreciate it.
All right, Ms. Covington?
Well, I want to welcome Tony. We're so glad to have him back. I think he'll be a wonderful addition to the council because he brings not only his previous city council experience, but he brings a lot of experience from planning and zoning, as you just heard tonight, which also seems to entangle itself in everything we do. So welcome. And I'm not going to offer my condolences to the McDuffie family. I think your condolences happened 74 years ago. But I'm just going to tell you how happy I am for you to be able to do what you're about to do at the end of this month. I think it's wonderful, and I know you must be relieved. I think anybody that doesn't know the story needs to talk to them about it, because it was miraculous that they ever got this done. And I'm thrilled for each one of you. Also, I echoed Oscar's sentiments to the veterans. I think we owe more to the veterans than we will ever acknowledge in this country, just as we did tonight. And I thank all of them, those who were successful in returning home and those who weren't. And you have done everything to give us the privilege of being here tonight, to have had an election last week, to every day their efforts touch our lives. Also, I want to thank the city staff for working so hard with all these groups that have so many concerns in the neighborhood. And I know you have a plate full anyhow, and we just keep piling on. And you just keep smiling. We have a wonderful city staff. They really break their backs to try to make this work for everybody. Thank you.
All right. I would like to welcome Mr. Clewis, and also just to point out that the Hamlet Senior Center, Amanda Kempen has been working down there for 6 or 8 months now, maybe. And one of her big improvements that she has done, I think this is the first one, she's had a monthly newsletter, but it's gotten even more professional now. She has, you know, a lot of articles, a lot of information about it. So those of you who are seniors can easily find all the information, the things that go on there, and just thank her for doing this, because it looks really good and really professional, and she's done a lot of work down there. And that is all I have. So let's see, we need a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I wish we had enough room